Welcome to Let's Talk Blood Cancer, the patient podcast with me, Adam Joyce, a former blood cancer patient myself. And today on the sofa, I'm joined by 26-year-old Morgan Paine, a patient himself who has gone on to do some pretty extraordinary things. Welcome to the sofa, Morgan. Great to have you here, buddy. This episode is called A Garmin Saved My Life. That's a pretty unique title for a podcast. What's that all about?
It is, and I've got my trusty Garmin on today. I think back in 2019, I just started to notice my heart rate go up on my watch, and I wear a Garmin because really into fitness.
As we can see, look at you.
Thank you. And I was quite obsessive with it for a little bit, and I'd keep an eye on my resting heart rate, and I think it was 44 at the time, so I was quite fit. Mm-hmm. And then in the space of 2 or 3 weeks, my heart rate went from 44 to 66.
What, resting?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's like 50%. So 66 is still low.
Yeah.
But for me, that felt really high. Mm-hmm. And I was like, what's going on? And it wouldn't budge. I was in my final year of university, and I thought, is it just stress? Dissertations come in. I didn't have a project title. Am I just stressed out? Is my heart rate?
Yeah. Because you were, 19 at the time?
Yeah, 19, so going into final year of university.
Yeah.
And just it kept going up, and I think within the space of 3 weeks, I started to notice different things, like the colour of my skin would go a little bit paler, I'd be out of breath running for the train. It was only when I almost passed out running for the train that I was like, all right, I need to go and have a blood test.
So it sounds like you've done what so many people do and it is a bit of a bloke thing as well. Nothing sexist here, but we tend to not go looking for help, do we? We try and power through. It sounds like what you were doing.
I think so. And it was only that one day where I ran for the train, I almost passed out. My vision went a bit black. That I was like, okay, something seriously is wrong. And I got lucky that when I had my blood test, someone was paying attention. And they called the house in the middle of the night and said to my mum and dad at the time, can you go and make sure your son's still breathing?
Right, okay. All right. So a phone call to your parents saying, make sure your son's still breathing. Hang on, take me back a little bit then, Morgan. You ran for the train. You decided that you needed to get help.
Yep.
What did that help look like?
That help was, I went to my GP, told them the symptoms, and it was an urgent referral just to a blood test centre.
Okay.
Had the blood test on the afternoon.
Yeah.
And your bloods get taken off for analysis.
So that was just at the GP surgery? Or?
Yeah, so you just go to a local blood test centre.
Yeah.
They took the bloods. I went back home, went to sleep. An alarm was set for university the next morning.
Yeah.
And my mum and dad get a call in the middle of the night, and it turns out that someone was paying attention when they were monitoring my bloods, and my bloods were just that low.
Wow. So your parents had a call saying, check your son is still breathing.
Yep. Can't
Can't even comprehend what that must be like.
No.
So were you at home with them at the time?
Yeah, I was in bed. It was about midnight.
Okay, so you were living with your folks at the time?
Yeah.
And what happened then?
They said there's an ambulance already on the way, but if you can get him up and get him to the car and take him to the hospital, you'll beat the ambulance, basically.
Okay.
My dad got me up. We drove to Wolverhampton Hospital at the time. And I just remember going in, I was like, have I got a stomach worm? I wouldn't have comprehended cancer.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Yeah.
And, we arrived, and literally all the nurses were like waiting for me. Got rolled in, and there was heads turning. Obviously I was really young at the time and looked fit. And then, pulled me into a ward, and doctor came over and said, you've got leukemia. And that was that.
And did you know what the word leukemia actually meant?
No, not at all. I heard leukemia and I heard cancer, and then I had a lot of blood tests, and it didn't really sink in. I just remember the next morning waking up, and after I'd had a couple of bags of blood that night, turned to my dad and said, look, leukemia won't kill me. We're going to beat it. So that was literally the mindset from the morning after.
Has that mindset ever changed?
No, it can't.
Well, yeah, but it's been like that because you will have had some low times, and we're going to talk about those.
Yeah.
But at any point, did you struggle to maintain that attitude that you had right from day one?
No. you can't. You have to be positive, and you have to see yourself coming out the other side. 'Cause I think mentally, it's taught me a lot. But even if you can just kid yourself that you're being positive, your brain will do pretty amazing things. Yeah.
Do you think your age helped?
I think my fitness helped at the time. I know for a fact that if I wasn't as fit as I was, I wouldn't be here today.
Okay. Because the reason I ask about your age is because, with no disrespect whatsoever, a 19-year-old is quite naive.
Yeah.
You know, we're not fully matured. We haven't got all our life experience. I was 19 when I was diagnosed.
Yeah.
I think my naivety helped me through a little bit because I don't think I understood the magnitude of it at the time. It sounds like you were different.
There was probably a little element of that. But I think at the time I'd have liked to have thought I was quite mature. You know, I didn't drink. I was really into my fitness. I could have conversations with people years older than myself. So I think I knew the reality of what was going on. And even, you know, when the doctors come around, I wanted to know everything. I wanted to understand it straight away. I wanted to know what I had to do to make what they were doing work. You know, you see all different kinds of stories, but I just wanted to, whatever they told me I had to do, I'd do it, and then we'd get better.
And the information that you were being given, was it information that you could understand, so the layperson could understand? Or did you have to really pick at it to find the snippets that you needed or that your parents needed?
So I was really fortunate that after 3 days at Wolverhampton, I got transferred to the Teenage Cancer Trust ward at the QE in Birmingham. Okay. And with that, as a young person's ward, when the consultants come round, there are funded Teenage Cancer Trust nurses that basically translate what the consultant said into terms that my parents and myself will understand. Yeah. And I had a lady named Jacqueline who used to come round with my consultants, and she'd sit with me for half an hour afterwards and answer all my questions. So by the end of it, yeah, I understood everything that was being said.
So you had your diagnosis, and you had that initial shock of heading off to Wolverhampton Hospital at the middle of the night. But things did get worse, didn't they? You ended up in a medically induced coma.
Yes. It was about a month after I was diagnosed. You know, we'd been going through the treatment. And then for one reason or another, the doctors still can't explain it, I can't explain it. I ended up with a little bit of air outside my lungs. And the only way they could treat that was to induce me into a coma. You know, they took me down, and I collapsed in the middle of the night. That's what set it all off. And they found this bit of air. They took me down on the morning and said to my parents, this is what's going to happen. My parents were basically told, say your last goodbyes. Oh. That's how serious it was. They said I had a 10% chance of making tea time that day. All the while, I was lying there, and everybody, you know, they come up above you and they're saying goodbye to you and things. And all I kept saying was, I'm going to be fine. Like, I'm fine. I'm going to be okay. I didn't know that I was about to be placed into a coma.
Oh, they didn't share that with you?
They didn't share that with me, no. But then I was completely out of it on drugs and...
Yeah.
But all
you were in a bad way yourself. Yeah.
All I kept saying was, I'm going to be fine. I'm going to be okay.
And undoubtedly you've had these conversations, or you've spoken about this with your folks who I've had the pleasure of meeting, absolutely beautiful people. Have they shared with you how it felt for them when they were told that their son might not make tea time?
It's something we've touched on as a family. It's not something we go into all that often, because for them it was a massive traumatic experience.
Of course.
And for me it's a massive traumatic experience. But, you know, I've heard stories and I don't really remember waking up. I did wake up, so I was in the coma for 5 days. Yep. And then I was fortunate enough to wake up on Christmas morning. And I remember I don't remember, the stories that have been told to me is that I turned to my dad and said, I need to go to sleep. And he said, why? I said, I've been climbing like you told me to. And that's what my dad had told me before I went under.
You're kidding?
Keep climbing.
Wow.
When I woke up, that's what I said to him. I said, I'm tired, I've been climbing. No. And that must have been what my mind attached to for 5 days under. Yeah.
The irony that you've had 5 days of sleep.
Yep.
And you wake up And you want to go to sleep and have a bit more of a rest. You said that you, it was Christmas time, wasn't it? And your consultant, Lindsay George, called you the Christmas miracle.
Yeah, so there was a lot of nurses that also said goodbye to me when I went down. It was that serious, really. You know, that's why I said what I said at the start. The doctors wouldn't have thrown everything that they did throw at me if I hadn't have been as fit. And that's why I'm so passionate about fitness now, is that I owe my life to it. They wouldn't have given me the chance if I hadn't been that fit. And, you know, waking up on Christmas morning, you get taken back up to the ward, and all of a sudden you've got nurses going, oh my God, this is the best thing that's happened. It's Christmas Day, you've woken back up. Yeah.
What special people that you were surrounded by on that ward.
Yeah.
Your diagnosis was acute lymphoblastic leukemia.
Yep.
What? Clearly now you understand lots about that. But can you put that into real simple terms for me, really, about your diagnosis?
So it was a blood cancer with a gene mutation. So it was a Philadelphia gene that had been mutated that then caused my leukemia. That's as much as I understand it myself.
It's far more than I understand it as well, Morgan. But one of the things I wanted to know is, how did this happen to me? Did you go through anything like that?
Yeah, there's a lot of what.
And nobody can answer that, can they?
No.
Doesn't matter who you ask, they can't tell you why you.
I think I had that for a couple of weeks. You know, I'm thinking to myself, I don't do drugs. I don't drink alcohol. I look after myself. I've never done anything wrong to anyone. And you've got people wandering the streets that do wrong.
Yeah.
And you're thinking, well, why me? But you can't answer that. You can only face the problem that you've got, which is you've got to win.
And you've started touching there on some of the emotions.
Yep.
You know, it's unfair.
It is.
Why me? What other emotions did you go through?
It's a hard one, because I think a lot of people don't understand with leukemia is that your treatment's so long. Yes, you're in hospital for, in my case, it was 8 weeks, including the coma. But my treatment lasted for 3.5 years. You know, you leave the hospital and everybody thinks you're fine.
Yeah.
You walk around the street and you can do traditional things, normal things. But then once a week, no, for a week, once a month, you have to go back in and have your treatment. So you're not normal. I think it's like, it just lasts so long. Yeah.
And your fitness was a massive thing to you, as you've said to us a couple of times today. But running a half marathon during chemo, I mean, first of all, how did they let you do that? And how on earth did you manage to talk your family into letting you do it?
I think as soon as I could, the motivation was to get myself back to being as fit as possible, given the circumstances. Whether or not it was fortunate that it was COVID times, that's another thing, but I had time, and I just knew that I needed to be fit again, because if there was another complication that came along, which there were, I had to be fit so that I could survive, so that I gave myself the best chance of survival again.
What were some of those complications, Morg?
So I had a lung infection which lasted for 3 months, and I also had a number of sepsis treatments, one of which was blood into the stomach and different things, a couple of weeks in hospital. But again, I'd got myself back to being fit so that any treatment that I needed, my body could withstand.
And you spoke to me not so long ago, actually, about how you just wanted to talk to someone, particularly someone of university age, young, healthy, fit, who'd been through what you were going through.
Yep.
But you hit a bit of a stumbling block when the pandemic came, didn't you?
Yeah, so when I was first diagnosed, Teenage Cancer Trust ward, fantastic setup. They have a little outpatient section where people that are a year down the line will come and have their blood tests and their dose of chemotherapy. And I'd be able to sit there in my bed looking out, and I could see people that would be me in a year's time. It'd give you that vision. And then when the pandemic hit, outpatients got moved to a different building, and that got taken away. And it's one of the things that I wish they'd bring back now, because as an outpatient myself, I'd love to be able to go in and go, there is hope, you will get there. Whether that's be by looking at me or another patient that comes in, you know, there is light at the end of the tunnel.
Mate, anyone who looks at you now and tries to comprehend that you were a blood cancer patient, I mean, you are an absolute picture of health now. And that picture of health translated into you riding London to Paris, a massive Cure Leukaemia event that has been running for years and years, 500 kilometres through the summer over 4 days into Paris. You did that straight after finishing chemo. What was that experience like?
That was a wild ride. That was when I did have to get signed off by the doctor. But I had my chemo on the Wednesday morning and then travelled down to London that afternoon. And then we started riding our bike the day after.
On the Thursday morning, didn't we? Yeah. But you didn't ride it alone, did you?
No, I rode it with my dad. It was special that year, and then we rode into Paris on Father's Day. Yeah. And, you know, memories like that, you can't beat.
Do you know what, Morgan, it's a memory for me as well. I had the privilege of being there. I was on that finish line, and to see you and your dad at the front of that cycling peloton leading 200 cyclists into Paris. That bond with your dad, you clearly got a great relationship with your dad now. Has it always been that way? Have you always been a real close father and son?
Yeah, I think ever since it's always been the two of us. You know, I took up rugby, my dad was always football. So he became a rugby coach just so that he could be with me.
Did he?
Didn't have to stand on the sidelines so he could be with me. And then when it wasn't rugby, it was cycling. We'd go out cycling together. And then all the way through, anything I needed, he's always given it me through my treatment. And then, yeah, creme de la creme was riding with him. Yeah.
Into Paris?
Into Paris, yeah.
I heard you earlier when you said about what a traumatic experience it's been for your parents. But it's not just about you, is it, as the patient?
No.
And an experience of mine was I really wanted people to worry about others as well.
Yeah.
And your parents needed looking after, didn't they?
Yeah. It's a real difficult one because growing up, I was always that person that if anything was wrong, I'd want to go and fix it. If there was an argument, I'd want to go and talk to whoever was arguing and go and try and fix it. The problem I had was I couldn't help them this time because it was just too triggering for myself. They'd have their issues that they'd come up with about seeing me in the state that I was, but I just couldn't deal with talking to them about it because I still hadn't got to terms with what had happened to me. And it took me the whole 3.5 years and therapy and different things to get over it, to be in a position where now I can have the open conversations with them. And, you know, they were lucky enough to talk to people themselves, and we had a really great network around us. But yeah, they needed looking after just as much as I did.
They do. And the family and friends of the patient are often, not, I wouldn't say forgotten about, but, you know, I heard an anecdote of, hello, how's Morgan, straight away, rather than, how are you?
It's still the question now. You know, my dad will come back and he said, so-and-so said, how's Morgan? And I'm like, I don't know that person, but they know of me. And they'll always ask my dad or my mum, how's he getting on?
Yeah. And there will be people watching this podcast across the globe who are potentially right at the start of their blood cancer treatment journey. They will need to manage the expectations of those around them. Have you got any tips or advice for, because clearly you want to keep everybody informed, you want to tell people how you're progressing, people around you are really interested, genuinely interested and caring. Any advice on sort of managing that from a patient perspective?
I think from a patient perspective, to anybody who is supporting someone that's going through leukemia, is that it's not over the moment that they come out of hospital. That's the biggest thing that I've noticed. Like, there were friends that turned up and there were friends that didn't. But you tend to find a lot of people turn up when you're in hospital. What you need is those people to carry on turning up for the 3 years afterwards when you are going through it once a month, every month, repetitively. It is a long battle, and you need that network around you to keep coming back. It's not over when you leave the hospital. You then have to go through it.
That's really, really useful advice. What's your escape, Morgan? I'm predicting you're going to say fitness. I'm predicting you're going to say getting out for a long run. When you weren't able to, and when you were confined to a bed, for example, what were your approaches for taking yourself away?
That's a tough one. I mean, I was really lucky that I had friends that would come and sit with me for 12 hours a day and just having someone to talk to. And then obviously COVID hit, but I had a really good support network. I had people that would just come and sit in the garden and talk. I think talking to as many people and not being alone with your thoughts when you're in pain and when you're going through that is really important. And also making sure you're doing things, just little exercises. So I used to just walk up and down the stairs just to keep myself ticking over. It's hard to look back and go, what did I do? Because I am so fitness orientated. But you know, there's different things. But if you can find a hobby, you just sit down and you can do comfortably. Yeah,
something to focus on.
Yeah,
because the hours are long, aren't they? Those days in hospital, they're long. I'm sure they're longer than 24 hours.
They are, and then you have a week afterwards where your body will go through a rigmarole of different feelings. You know, your treatment comes with steroids, and that has its own side effects. So it's not just that day in hospital. You've got to keep your mind occupied. But I was having a week at a time off work, and then everything would be back. Like as soon as it started, a week later, you're back to feeling the same. Nothing happened.
It's just it's difficult to articulate, isn't it? Unless you've been there.
It really is. It's like you're a different person for a week of every month, and then you're back to being yourself.
Talking about being a different person, some people say illness changes you forever. Have you noticed any shift in yourself?
I have, and it's one that I've only really come to terms with in the last year. And you know, when I was in hospital, I always told myself that your pain threshold will be changed. You know, you'll be able to tolerate so much more pain. You'll be able to push yourself further than you've ever.
Physical pain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, your mindset. You'll have this gratitude for life. You'll embrace it. And one thing I realised is that your body has gone through that much trauma, and your body and your mind have gone through that much trauma, that subconsciously you start seeking the comfortable decision. So, my work, relationships, my fitness, I'd do them all and I'd participate in them all. But if ever there was a decision between taking a risk and being comfortable, my subconscious just lent me to being comfortable. And I think that's because you have suffered so much trauma that your body just needs a break. And it's only recently that I've gone, actually, I do need that break.
Yeah.
My body, my mind, they need to heal. And maybe now we can start embracing life with this gratitude of, you know, life's very short. I know it's the cliche, but embrace life now. But I think you've got to let yourself have that time to heal the trauma. Your body has gone through an incredible trauma. Let it heal.
That's so interesting to hear you say that, because some people say you've got to live every day as your last, but you can't possibly do that because you'll run out of money.
Yeah.
You potentially run out of experiences. But then listening to you, you would actually take the safer option and protect yourself.
I think for the start, until I realised what was happening, I've subconsciously taken that decision. Now I'm going to start planning for the future and trying to embrace it a little bit more. But yeah, you will run out. You can't live every day like it's your last, but you can live it fully.
Of course.
Yeah.
And you are living it fully, and a lot of the things that you are doing to live your life like that, Cure Leukaemia are the beneficiaries of some of the amazing fundraising that you've been doing. Cure Leukaemia have asked you to be an ambassador. How did that feel?
That was a real full circle moment. The charity have felt like a family since that morning on London to Paris. You know, whether it was fate or not that I got awarded the place, but ever since then, it's been a very happy relationship between the charity and, well, my family. My dad was telling me the other morning that as a family we raised £37,000 for the charity.
Absolutely phenomenal.
But it's only because I was introduced to how much of an impact Cure Leukaemia had on my survival and the treatment that they provide, that then I felt, okay, I want to give back. My motivation shifted, and being an ambassador just helps with that process. Yeah,
I can see you're proud of that as well, which is really nice, as I am. 2025, you've ran 5 marathons, but there's a reason you ran 5 marathons, isn't there? Yeah, so I don't know why the idea came to my mind, but last Christmas it had been 5 years since I was diagnosed. The only logical thought was, how can I signify that it's been 5 years? Yeah. Let's run 5 marathons. Sounds perfectly logical to me, or illogical. I certainly couldn't do my 5 marathons. But you raised 22,000 just this year.
Yeah.
Which is incredible, Morgan. And I know I speak on behalf of, well, not only everybody at Cure Leukaemia, but blood cancer patients who will benefit from your fundraising across the world when I say thank you. Thank you to you, Morgan. What's next? Because there's only so many times you can ask the same people for sponsorship money, isn't there? There's only so many crazy, wacky fundraising events that you can do, I guess.
Yeah.
So what's next for Morgan?
I think the part of being an ambassador, and it's something I've talked to James McLaughlin, CEO, about, is, you can only put your body through so much each year. You can only ask the same people so much each year. I've got a passion for talking to people about this story and about raising awareness for the charity. So whether that's going out and doing talks for the charity, that's something I'd like to pursue next year. And then I've got my eyes on a place on the 2027 tour.
Oh, here we go. Tour 21. That's an incredible amount of cycling. I had heard the rumours. I'm glad that you've addressed it. How likely is that, Morgan?
It's becoming ever likelier.
Is it?
Yeah.
Nobody's going to keep you down, are they? Where are you with your hearing the words cured then? Where are you in the whole blood cancer journey as we sit here today?
From my perspective, I'm in remission.
Mm-hmm.
I think having leukemia, and again, touching on it, it goes on for such a long time. I still have to go and have a checkup once every 3 months. And I don't think until those checkups have stopped that I'll ever fully be able to go, like, that's it, it's done.
Yeah.
'Cause it's always a reminder you have to go back. It'll be 3 months, then it'll be 6 months, then it'll be 12 months. We'll carry on going. I'm still having vaccinations that my treatment affected in different things. So I'm not a patient of leukemia anymore, but its side effects, I'm a patient of those.
Really well put. I really like that. Do you find it traumatic to go, or maybe triggering is perhaps a better suggestion when you go back for your blood tests?
Not anymore. The first couple of times when you're so used to it was once a month, you'd go back and have your treatment. And then that first 3 months, 6 months afterwards, when you're almost expecting something to go wrong, because all of a sudden they've taken the treatment away, the thing that's stopping it coming back, they've taken that away. And then, time heals a lot of wounds. And, I go back now and I have a very enjoyable conversation with Lindsay George. And we just catch up, and it feels more conversational, a bit like how we've sat today. And you'll go, oh yeah, your bloods are fine. And that's that. It's not traumatic to visit the hospital. I think maybe if I was visiting the ward that I was diagnosed at, potentially, it might be a little bit more triggering. But I've done a lot of work to get over the mental trauma that comes with it.
There's far more treatment than just the drugs.
Yes.
Isn't there? Morgan, throughout this podcast, you've been really open about how you would like to help others. And if there's anybody watching this episode that would like to reach out to Morgan, please do so via the Cure Leukaemia website. Or if you've got any questions, you can pop them in the comments box below this video. Morgan, thank you so much for joining us today. Let's Talk Blood Cancer, the Patients Podcast.